Hello everyone, I am Bodin Chinthanet, a PhD student from Nara Institute of Science and Technology, Japan. In this opportunity, I would like to present my paper entitled Code-Based Vulnerability Detection in Node.js Applications. How far are we? This paper is a part of my internship project at SAP Security Research team. As of 2020, the popularity of Node.js and npm among developers are growing up. From the blog post of npm, there are 1.3 million packages are hosted on npm. 12 million developers are currently using those packages, and there are 72 billion packages are downloaded per month. A recent report from Synopsys showed that there's known vulnerabilities can affect both open source and industrial applications. From 1,250 commercial codebases, there are 70% of codebases that are open source, and 75% of codebases contain at least one vulnerability. Importantly, they found that JavaScript is one of the most commonly used language in these codebases. Recently, there are tools from many companies that help developers to detect the known vulnerability in the dependencies. There are two kinds of detection tools. The first one is a meta detection. This tool will use only metadata of dependencies, such as name and version, to detect whether application affected by vulnerability or not. Existing works show that such tools are unreliable and suffer from false positives. The second kind of detection tool is a code-centric detection. Instead of passing only metadata, these kind of tools extract and detect the vulnerable code from the source code directly. At SAP Security Research team, they create a code-centric tools to detect open source vulnerabilities called Eclipse Steady. The tool is able to detect the inclusion of vulnerable code in the dependencies. It's able to find the vulnerable code execution evidence from the source code. It also provides the support to developers to mitigate the vulnerable dependencies. However, currently this tool only supports Java and Python application analysis. For the support of Node.js application analysis is still unavailable. So the ultimate goal of my internship project is to extend the features of Eclipse Steady to support Node.js application analysis. However, it is a challenging task for researchers and practitioners to create these tools. Here, we show the example of two perils of Node.js application analysis. First, due to the nature of JavaScript, it works in an asynchronous manner where the execution of listeners is triggered by the events. The challenge of such dynamic code is the proper identification of a function call. Second, JavaScript allows developers to create anonymous functions. It is very challenging to identify and distinguish the different functions. In order to avoid the complexity of the vulnerable code reachability analysis. This work will focus on the detection of vulnerable code only. So here we define 3 steps to detect the vulnerable code in the Node.js application. The first step is the extracting program constructs. The second step is the curating vulnerability knowledge base. And the final step is the detecting vulnerable constructs. So let's start with the first step, extracting program constructs. In this step, we extract the program construct of the application and its dependencies. So first, we have to prepare the target Node.js application. Then, we have to install the libraries dependencies of this application by using npm. After that, we pack those applications and dependencies to Steady and extract the program construct list. There are 7 types of constructs that we are able to extract from the source code, including package, module, function, class, method, constructor, and object. Next, the second step, curating vulnerability knowledge base. In order to curate the vulnerability knowledge base, we have to perform these following steps to extract each vulnerability fix information. We first manually annotate the set of fixed commits from the vulnerable library Git repository. Then we will use Steady to extract the construct change list from the set of fixed commits. And after that, we store those construct change lists into the vulnerability knowledge base. And for the final step, the detecting vulnerable constructs. In this step, we use the information from previous 2 steps in order to find out whether or not vulnerable constructs appear in the application by using Steady and generate a vulnerable construct list. In order to evaluate our prototype, we conduct an assessment of vulnerable code from SAP under development project. We use 65 Node.js application from SAP and we select 60 vulnerabilities from 24 open source npm libraries. As a result, our prototype was able to detect 5 vulnerabilities from 2 popular libraries. Those vulnerable code are detected in both runtime dependencies and test dependencies, which are from both direct and transitive dependencies. In summary, our ultimate goal is to make an extension of Eclipse Steady to support Node.js application analysis. In the current state, we are able to detect the dependent vulnerable codes from known vulnerabilities. However, there are some limitations that we found, such as sometimes it requires a lot of time and memory when there's a lot of dependency installed in the application. The other limitation is the prototype right now support just only JavaScript file analysis. It cannot extract other kinds of source codes such as TypeScript, which can be used in Node.js application. For our next target is to collect vulnerable code execution evidence in the application, and also we would like to eliminate all of limitation that we found here. There are many things that we learned from this project. For example, we found that a lot of effort to extract the final level construct is required, but for some cases, the higher level extraction might sufficient for vulnerability detection. So, the suggestion for the community is we should evaluate the granularity of construct extraction in order to find the optimal level for detecting vulnerable construct. For the next lesson and learn, we found that Node.js is evolving over time because ECMAScript releases a new specification every year, and industrial projects struggle with the migration due to compatibility issues. So, we suggest that the community should help developers to keep up with the new technology, such as maintaining the language parser for the further code analysis, and make a strategies to properly manage backward compatibility in applications. We also find that a lot of NPM packages are suffer from vulnerabilities, which NPM has the highest number of vulnerabilities compared to other ecosystems. So we suggest that we should help developers to aware of changes within the ecosystem. If you want to check the development of our prototype, please check this GitHub repository. Thank you for your attention.